So I want you to just close your eyes for a second.
All right.
Imagine you're like sitting in this cramped hotel suite, right? The morning of your wedding. Or, maybe you're getting ready for the biggest presentation of your entire career, like a massive once-in-a-lifetime milestone.
The pressure is definitely on.
Exactly. Hundreds, maybe thousands of photos are about to be taken over the next few hours. And you desperately want that look, right? That elusive, I just woke up glowing aesthetic.
Oh, yeah. The effortless look.
Right. But let's be honest, the reality of trying to look effortless is usually just brutal. I mean, it usually involves sitting rigidly in a makeup chair for like 3 hours, barely breathing, terrified to blink too hard or scratch your nose.
Because you might smear a carefully constructed masterpiece before the photographer even walks into the room.
Yes. The effort required to look effortless is just staggering. And that tension is exactly what we are digging into today on this deep dive.
It really is a strange paradox when you stop to think about it.
It totally is. I mean, the more you try to achieve a look that says you haven't tried at all, the more intensive and expensive the actual physical preparation tends to become.
And that's why we're seeing this massive shift happening right now in the world of event beauty.
Right. Which brings us to the mission of today's deep dive. Based on our source materials, the entire industry is seeing this huge movement toward what's being called low-maintenance enhancements.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're focusing on the absolute explosion of two paired treatments, brow lamination and henna.
Yeah, and while this might sound purely cosmetic at first glance, there is this incredibly deep layer of chemistry, biological risk management, and even psychology involved in getting event ready these days.
Okay, let's unpack this, because people are no longer just paying for a pretty face. They are, like, trying to engineer peace of mind.
Engineering peace of mind. That is a perfect way to frame it.
Because let's be real, eyebrows completely change the architecture of your face. I mean, they dictate facial symmetry, they signal emotion, they can absolutely make or break a portrait.
They really form the anchor of the face.
Right. But before we get into why this specific combination is replacing traditional makeup, let's actually break down what these procedures are. Let's start with brow lamination. What is physically happening to the hair when someone gets them laminated?
Well, to understand lamination, you kind of have to look at the structure of the hair itself. Your eyebrow hairs, like all the hair on your body, are made of a protein called keratin.
Okay, keratin. I've heard of that.
Right. And those keratin proteins are held together by something called disulfide bonds. You can think of disulfide bonds like millions of microscopic rubber bands inside each hair strand.
Microscopic rubber band.
Exactly. And they dictate the natural shape, the curl, and the direction of your hair. So if your brow hairs naturally grow downward, or if they, stubbornly crisscross over each other, it's because those microscopic rubber bands are tightly locking them into that specific growth pattern.
Okay, so if you want to change the direction the hair lays, you basically have to break all those tiny rubber bands.
That is the exact mechanism. Yeah. Brow lamination uses a chemical relaxer, typically an alkaline solution, that significantly raises the pH of the hair.
Wow.
Yeah, and this forces the outer layer of the hair, the cuticle, to open up. The chemicals rush in and literally snap those disulfide bonds.
So the hair just goes limp?
Suddenly, the hair becomes completely malleable.
Yes.
A technician can then brush the hairs upward into this really fluffy, full, symmetrical shape. And once they have the hairs positioned perfectly, they apply a neutralizing lotion.
Okay, wait, what does the neutralizer do? Does it, rebuild the bonds in the new shape?
Precisely. The neutralizer drops the pH back down, closes the cuticle, and reforms the disulfide bonds.
Oh, wow.
So now those microscopic rubber bands are locking the hair into the new lifted position. It gives you this incredibly full, feathery appearance, and the hairs just stay there for weeks.
And no needles, right?
Crucially, yes. This involves absolutely zero needles. It is a surface-level chemical reaction.
Which is music to the ears of anyone with a phobia of needles. I mean, so lamination basically acts as the architectural scaffolding for your face.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, it gives you the structure, the volume, and the shape by manipulating the keratin. But then we introduce the second half of this trend, right? Henna brows. No, I only know henna from, traditional temporary tattoos at street fairs. How is it being utilized here?
Well, it's utilizing a refined version of that exact same plant-based dye, which is derived from the henna tree. The biological mechanism here is really fascinating.
Okay, hit me with the science.
Henna contains a naturally occurring molecule called lawsone. When applied to the eyebrows, Lawsone doesn't just coat the outside of the hair like a traditional synthetic hair dye might. It actually binds tightly to the keratin proteins.
Okay, so it dyes the newly restructured hair.
It dyes the hairs, yes, but more importantly, it binds to the keratin in the outermost layer of your skin, the epidermis.
Wait, really? It dyes your skin?
It physically stains the skin underneath the brow hairs? Yes.
Oh, wow. So it's leaving a shadow on the skin itself. That kind of completely changes the equation.
It really does. By staining the skin beneath the brow, it creates the illusion of a much denser, fuller brow.
Right.
It adds deep definition and fills in any sparse areas or gaps where hair might not be growing as thickly. The result is what technicians call a soft makeup effect.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
I'm putting myself in the shoes of a bride or just someone prepping for a massive event. You are talking about breaking the chemical bonds in my hair with alkaline solutions and then literally staining my epidermis with plant molecules.
Right before the big day.
Yeah, right before one of the most highly photographed days of my life. How does this not look completely insane? Like, in my mind, I'm picturing drawn-on, severe, blocky eyebrows. It sounds incredibly harsh.
I completely understand that hesitation. It sounds intense. But what's fascinating here is the reason it doesn't look like a severe block of ink comes down to dimensional volume.
Dimensional volume.
Yeah, think about it. When you use traditional makeup like heavy wax pomades or thick pencils, you are drawing a flat, opaque layer of product onto the skin.
Right, it looks like a sticker on your forehead.
Exactly. It catches the light artificially and can look very two-dimensional. But with lamination and henna, you have synergy. The lamination lifts the natural hairs to create genuine physical 3D volume. You have actual texture.
Ah, I see.
Then the henna provides a semi-translucent shadow on the skin beneath it. Because it's a natural plant dye reacting with your unique skin chemistry, it doesn't leave a hard drawn line.
It just looks like a shadow.
It mimics the natural shadowing of dense hair. The combination yields a surprisingly soft, elegant, and totally photo-ready appearance.
So it's essentially enhancing the physical reality of what's already there, rather than just painting a totally fake feature onto your face.
And for photography, that is critical. Camera flashes tend to bounce off the oils and heavy makeup, creating a glare.
Oh, I hate that.
We all do. But brows defined through lamination and henna absorb light naturally because it's just your hair and a skin stain. It creates a beautifully balanced portrait without the artificial harshness.
Okay, but wait. Why pay all this money for something that washes off in a few weeks?
Well,
Like, if I'm investing in my face for a major life event, why settle for a temporary chemical perm and a plant stain? For years, microblading was like the absolute gold standard of the brow industry.
it definitely was.
So why aren't people just getting their brows microbladed so it actually lasts through the honeymoon and the rest of the year? Isn't temporary a bad thing here?
It's a great question. To understand why the industry is shifting away from microblading for event prep, you really have to look at what microblading actually does to the biology of your skin. Microblading is not a surface treatment, it is a semi-permanent tattoo.
Meaning needles.
Meaning a tool made of several tiny needles is used to create micro-incisions into the papillary dermis. That's the layer of skin just below the epidermis.
Okay.
The technician physically slices into the skin and deposits pigment into those wounds.
Just hearing the word wounds when talking about wedding prep is giving me anxiety.
And that's exactly why the shift is happening. When you slice into the dermis, your body's immune system immediately recognizes it as an injury and a foreign invader.
Naturally.
So macrophages, which are a type of white blood cell, rush to the area to try and swallow up the pigment. This triggers a massive inflammatory response.
Wait, so your immune system is actively fighting your eyebrows?
Yes,
Yeah.
literally. And that biological battle means microblading comes with a mandatory, unpredictable healing period.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ah.
As the incisions heal, lymph fluid is produced, which eventually dries and creates scabs. The brows will scab, they will peel, and they go through a ghosting phase where the pigment actually seems to disappear under the healing tissue before darkening again.
Oh my God. Imagine dealing with peeling, scabbing, unpredictable eyebrows during your rehearsal dinner.
It's a total nightmare scenario. If you are planning an event, your mindset is all about the risk-reward ratio, right? The unpredictability of a dermal healing process right before a major event is just a massive biological risk.
Yeah, what if you get an infection?
Or what if it scabs unevenly? What if your skin holds onto the pigment poorly and it looks patchy? Lamination and henna entirely bypass that medical downtime. There is zero immune response because the skin isn't broken. It's a calculated choice to lower your risk.
Risk management for your face. I love that. You get the flawless look of a tattoo without triggering a white blood cell response.
Exactly.
But knowing that lamination and henna are temporary, chemical-based processes means timing must be absolutely everything. I mean, you can't just walk into a salon the morning of the wedding, grab a coffee, and demand a chemical hair restructuring.
Not at all. In fact, pulling this off requires a highly specific, very strict timeline. It is an exercise in serious pregame strategy.
Okay, so walk us through this master plan. Where does the timeline actually begin?
For first-time clients, meaning anyone who has not had these specific alkaline chemicals or Lawzone dye molecules on their skin before, you have to schedule a trial run 6 to 8 weeks before the event.
2 whole months in advance, just for a test.
It is absolutely vital. You have to allow time to see how your unique biology responds.
Because everyone's different.
Right. Some people have coarse hair with highly resistant disulfide bonds that just take longer to break down. Some people have skin that pulls the henna dye too warm, making it look slightly orange, or too cool, making it look ashy.
Oh, nobody wants orange eyebrows for their wedding photos.
Exactly. And there's always the risk of contact dermatitis, an allergic reaction to the chemicals. If you break out in a rash or the color is wrong, 6 to 8 weeks gives the skin cell turnover cycle enough time to naturally fade the henna, and the hair is enough time to relax back to normal.
Okay, so let's say the trial goes perfectly. You love the fluffy, dimensional look. When do you go back for the actual event day application?
The sweet spot is exactly 5 to 7 days before the event.
Wait, really? Why 5 to 7 days? Why not, like, 2 days before so it's as fresh as possible?
Because of the chemistry we discussed earlier. Right after you chemically break and reform those bonds, the hairs are rigidly glued into their new upward position. They can actually look a little too flat against the skin, almost pasted on.
Oh, like they're painted on.
Yeah, giving it 5 to 7 days allows the cuticle to fully reseal. The hairs settle naturally into a slightly softer, fluffier shape. It also gives the skin's pH time to rebalance, meaning any lingering redness or chemical irritation completely subsides before the cameras start flashing.
Got it. So you want it to look lived in, not like you just stepped out of a science experiment.
Exactly.
And this brings us to the aftercare, which is where the logistical gymnastics really begin. Because the protocol for the first 24 to 48 hours after you leave the salon is notoriously unforgiving. Here's where it gets really interesting.
It does. The cardinal rule of lamination is this: no water, no steam, and absolutely no excessive sweating for the first 24 to 48 hours.
Which is terrifying. Think about the reality of the week leading up to a massive event. You get your brows done 5 days out. For the next 2 days, you are essentially forbidden from sweating.
You really have to plan around it.
Yeah. You can't go to the sauna to de-stress. You can't do a heavy cardio workout to burn off nervous energy. You can't get caught in the rain running errands. You can't even stand too close to a boiling pot of pasta. I mean, if you have a stressful, sweaty rehearsal dinner where you're running around organizing people, you are risking your eyebrows falling completely flat.
The reason for that strict rule is chemical. The neutralization process that reforms those disulfide bonds takes about 24 to 48 hours to fully stabilize inside the hair shaft.
Oh, so it's still working.
Exactly. If you introduce moisture, steam, or the salts from your sweat into the hair before the bonds are locked, you disrupt the chemical reaction. The hair will revert to its original unruly shape, and the henna stain will just wash out prematurely.
It definitely requires some intense life choreography.
And beyond avoiding water, there is another critical step in this timeline: biological preparation. You can't just show up to the appointment and expect magic if your biological canvas is in terrible condition.
Wait, is this why that Anya Milan video was included in our source stack? The one about how to eat and drink your skincare? Because I was wondering how a video about nutrition fit into a deep dive about eyebrow chemicals.
That is the exact connection, yes.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights the shift toward holistic readiness. If you show up to a henna appointment severely dehydrated, your skin's lipid barrier, the protective outer layer of fats and moisture, is completely compromised.
And what happens to the dye if your lipid barrier is compromised?
While dry, dehydrated skin absorbs the Lawzone molecules from the henna incredibly unevenly. The dye will cling to dry patches and slip right off oily patches.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you'll end up with patchy, leopard print eyebrows. And if your hair is brittle from poor nutrition, the lamination chemicals will just fry the hair, causing it to snap off.
Oh, that is horrifying, leopard print, broken eyebrows.
Exactly. The modern approach isn't just about slapping on a topical fix at the last minute. It's about hydrating heavily,
Mm.
eating foods rich in essential fatty acids to repair that lipid barrier, and using conditioning serums for weeks beforehand.
So prep starts way inside.
Right. By nourishing the body from the inside out, you create a healthy, uniform canvas so the dye absorbs perfectly evenly and the hair is resilient enough to handle the chemical restructuring.
You essentially have to treat your body like an interconnected ecosystem rather than a mannequin you dress up the morning of the event.
That's a great way to put it.
But I have to admit, organizing all of this sounds exhausting. You have the 8-week patch test, the 5-day final appointment, the diet tracking to maintain your lipid barrier, the 48-hour no-sweat window. And on top of that, you have to actively coordinate with your day of makeup artist so they don't accidentally slather heavy pomade over your freshly hennaed brows and ruin the whole effect.
The cognitive load of managing a modern event is just astronomical. You are essentially acting as a project manager for your own face while also dealing with catering, seating charts, and travel logistics.
Right. I mean, I'm stressed just talking about it. And that is where the tech world is stepping in to capitalize on this exact anxiety, right?
Mhm.
We're seeing platforms completely dedicated to absorbing this cognitive load.
Yes. The prime example of this trend in our sources is a platform called Weddizer. It basically operates as the ultimate resource for individuals trying to navigate this overwhelming beauty landscape.
So what does this all mean? How does a tool like Weddizer actually relieve the pressure we're talking about?
It acts as a comprehensive integration tool. It doesn't just show you trend discovery like, introducing you to the concept of lamination and henna in the first place. It actually provides algorithmic timeline integration.
Algorithmic timeline integration. So it's
Yeah.
literally project management software that cross-references your beauty needs with your real-life events.
Exactly. You input your event date, and the software backtracks the entire biological timeline for you. It tells you exactly which week to book the trial so your skin cell turnover is accounted for.
Wow.
Yeah. It flags the 5-day mark for the final appointment. It sends you a notification during that crucial 48-hour window reminding you not to hit the gym. It ensures you don't accidentally schedule your chemical lamination on the same afternoon as a sweaty outdoor venue walkthrough.
Which is so smart.
It takes the guesswork and, more importantly, the memory burden completely out of the equation.
Which is invaluable. Because staring at a spreadsheet trying to calculate the half-life of your eyebrow dye shouldn't be the most memorable part of your milestone celebration.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And when you look at platforms like Weddizer and the rise of treatments like lamination and henna, it reveals a massive cultural shift. We are moving away from day of panic and shifting entirely toward month-out preparation.
It's the difference between cramming for a final exam at 3 a.m. the morning of the test versus studying for 20 minutes every single day for a month. When you walk into the room, your energy is completely different.
And that relaxed energy translates beautifully to photographs.
Right.
When you aren't silently panicking about your eyebrow pencil melting under the studio lights, you are genuinely more present in your own life. You look effortless because in that specific moment, you aren't actually putting in any effort. The lamination provides the permanent structural lift, the henna provides the deep definition, and together they give you total security.
Okay, let's bring all of this together and kind of recap the core takeaway for everyone listening.
Right.
The era of the 3-hour makeup chair is really fading. Brow lamination and henna offer the ultimate low-maintenance beauty hack by fundamentally changing the biology of your face.
Absolutely.
By combining alkaline chemicals to snap and reform the keratin bonds in your hair with natural plant molecules that physically stain the epidermis, you get flawless 3D photo-ready brows.
Brows that survive the sweat of the dance floor, the tears of a ceremony, and the humidity of a honeymoon. All without triggering the immune system response and scabbing of a microblading tattoo.
But, and it's a massive but, you only get that flawless result if you treat your beauty routine like a military operation. You have to respect the biology. You need the 8-week trial to test your skin's reaction. You need the 5 to 7 day final application to let the pH balance settle.
You need a flawless lipid barrier through hydration.
Right, and you must survive that nail-biting 48-hour window of avoiding water and sweat to let those disulfide bonds lock into place. It is a massive investment of strategic time up front to buy you total freedom on the day of the event.
This raises an important question, really. It is the calculated scientific elimination of a daily chore, but at what cost?
It really is. And before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with something to ponder. We've spent this entire time marveling at how these semi-permanent enhancements save us time on the day of an event.
Yeah.
We love how they reduce the stress of traditional makeup and how they perfectly aligned with this highly praised new era of low-maintenance beauty.
Right.
But as cosmetic chemistry and algorithmic event planning continue to evolve, as we get better and better at semi-permanently altering our features just so we can wake up looking flawless, where exactly is the line between low-maintenance beauty and the invisible pressure to be permanently camera-ready 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
That really is the ultimate question of the modern aesthetic.
Are these advanced treatments actually freeing us from the mirror? Or are they just fundamentally changing when and how we spend our time and money in front of it? Because at the end of the day, you might have skipped the 3 hours of panic in the makeup chair on your big morning, but you still spent 2 solid months tracking your lipid barrier and chemically engineering that effortless look. It's definitely something to think about the next time you hear someone say they woke up like this.